All right, Shalom. First, I want to say by Barakatayahu, Barakatayahu Shai, Barakatayahu, Barakatayahu Shai, Barakatayahu, Barakatayahu Shai, Mashana Kabashalakayam, which is double honors to the apostles. Shalom, Wakasala Habakyar, which is peace and mercy to the elect. Just coming in, doing another quick little video, mainly about the history, you know, of the basically the Roman persecution, because Nero. All right, he was the emperor of Rome, you know. So I'm just gonna start reading. It says a generation after the death of Hamashiach, Christianity had reached Rome in the form of an obscure offset of Judaism, popular among the city's poor and destitute. Members of this religious sect spoke of the coming of a new kingdom and a new king. And that's the same thing that we go out on the highways and byways and do, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone on down. We go out on the highways and byways and we speak about, the coming of a new kingdom, which is the kingdom of heaven, all right, in which Israelites are going to be in rulership, and all the other nations, starting with the so-called white race, all right, is going to be in slavery, man, in slavery, you know. It says, members of this religious sect speak of the coming of a new kingdom and a new king. And we speak about that new king as well. All right. All right. Yahweh, man. He's going to be the new king upon the face of the earth, man. All right. The scripture tell you that every knee shall bow unto him. Okay. It says these views provoke suspicion among the Jewish authorities who rejected the group and fear among the Roman authorities who perceived these sentiments as a threat to the emperor. So just like in the time of 64 AD, man, when because they had prophets in that time as well, and they was basically their views, it provoked suspicion among the Jewish authorities, So that's by us going out on the highways and byways in this day and time is gonna provoke suspicion. All right, hey, that's why they came up with that Project Megiddo, that was basically had put the Hebrew Israelites on a basically a domestic terrorist watch group, man. Because we basically saying that America gonna be destroyed, all right, by thermonuclear fire. And at the end of the day, all we doing is reading out of the Bible. It's not like we going out there with no evidence. All right, we just making false accusation, false statements. All right, just coming up with this out of our own understanding. Then I can see why they would call us someone that does that a conspiracy theorist, man, because they don't have no facts to back up the statements or the claim that they're making. But we do, the Holy Bible, man. you know. But yeah, this is a threat um until these so-called white Americans, all right, and these other heathen nations, as well as 2/3 of the nation of Israel. This is a threat to them, man. You know, that's why Esau, he don't want us to basically teach this. Matter of fact, he don't want us to go out, on the highways and byways. He don't want us to wake up our people. All right. He don't want us to teach our children. That's why they have our children in uh they have our children in these schoolhouses. They'll make you a criminal, if you decide to homeschool your children. What is that? Sirach. Bear with me real quick. I think that is, what is that? Sirach. Second address. Sirach. Oh, all right. I think it's Sirach. Yeah, Sirach 30 and 3. It says, "He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy." So by us going out there teaching these people, our people, their true nationality, teaching them about the kingdom of heaven, you know, teaching them that the Lord doesn't love everybody. This is grieving our enemies, man. All right, by us doing that. All right. It says in the summer of 64, Rome suffered a terrible fire that burned for 6 days and 7 nights, consuming almost three-quarters of the city. The people accused the Emperor Nero for the devastation, claiming he set the fire for his own amusement. And that's how you know that this guy, Emperor Nero, he was a fucking Edomite, man. You know, because that's just like in forget what year, 2000, 2001, when the World Trade Center when they got destroyed, man. And it was basically the so-called white, the elite Edomites, the elite banking families, you know, that they basically caused the devastation, man. And it was basically it was basically for their own amusement, man. All right, and that's the same thing that they're gonna do until this society, this economy, throughout America and all over the face of the earth, man. All right, they're gonna devastate and collapse the economy. They're gonna collapse the dollar. You know, they're gonna collapse just as society in general, man. All right, it says the people accused the Emperor Nero for the devastation, claiming he set the fire for his own amusement, and that's what Esau's doing, man. The elites, they're gonna take down this society for their own amusement, man. All right, they're gonna implement RFID chips, which is the mark of the beast, pursuant to Revelations, the 13th chapter. They're gonna implement that, man, for their own amusement, man. All right. It says in order to deflect these accusations of and placate the people, Nero laid blame for the fire on the Christians. And the Christians in that time basically talking about the Israelites, man. You know, and hey, just like in the 9/11, man. All right, when the buildings got destroyed, you know, the planes ran into them or whatever, you know, they basically they blame the Christians, the so-called Christians, all right, which Christians is basically a follower of Yahweh Shai, man. You know, which are the Israelites. You know, but they blame the apostles of GMS, man. All right, of the devastation. You know, they blamed them and said that they were responsible for the attack that had taken place on 9/11, man. But we know that wasn't true, man. Because the thing is, how the fuck how could they, this is like, it's like it's like so far-fetched that they would believe that the apostles and elders of Great Millstone had anything to do with that destruction, man. You know, like they have all these connections throughout the world and in the Middle East, you know, or they're basically like a mole or like a spy, you know, over here in America, and they just carrying out the agenda of the Middle Eastern, the Muslims of ISIS. How could you believe that, man? You know, like but the scripture said, man, the simple believeth every word. Like the apostle said that when they came down at the little school that they had all the whole street was full of people, man. The houses, everybody watching, you know, and then telling them to arrest them and yeah, clapping and shit like that, man. When they really believe that these men, these lowly men, these men that don't have nothing in this world, they actually believe that they had something to do with the destruction of the World Trade Centers, man. It's preposterous, man. It says the emperor ordered the arrest of a few members of the sect who under torture accused others until the entire Christian populace was implicated and became fair game for retribution. You know, it says as many of the religious sect that could be found were rounded up and put to death in the most horrific manner for the amusement of the citizens of Rome. And that's just like in the time of slavery, man. When they would round up Jake, man. All right, Jake would basically be like a runaway slave. They would round him up, you know, and put him to death for the amusement of the community, man. You got all these you know, different accounts and you know, pictures and you know historic facts of, them, hanging Jake, and the whole fucking community came out to watch, man. It says the ghastly way in which the victims were put to death aroused sympathy among many Romans, although most felt their execution justified. But that's the thing. How could you, you know, feel that their execution was justified when they had no evidence, man? All right, it was basically hearsay, you know. Just because he's the emperor of Rome, that everybody believe every word that he says, man. You know. It says, jumping down, it says, therefore, to stop the rumor that he had set Rome on fire, Emperor Nero, falsely charged with guilt and punished with the most fearful tortures the persons commonly called Christians, which were Israelites, who were generally hated for their enormities. Christos, the founder of that name, was put to death as a criminal by Pontius Pilate, procurator of Judea in the region of Tiberias, but the pernicious suspicion, repressed for a time, broke out yet again, not only through Judea, where the mischief originated, but through the city of Rome also, where the all things horrible and disgraceful flew from all quarters as to a coming receptacle, and where they are encouraged. Accordingly, first those were arrested who confessed they were Christians. Next, on their information, a vast multitude were convicted, not so much on the charge of burning the city as of hating humanity, man. So these Israelites, they basically hated humanity, man. Hey, but that's the word, man, because the apostle Gabar, he said that we're misanthropes or something like that. Let me see if I can get it. Misanthrope. Yeah, misanthrope. That's basically what those Israelites were, man. They hated humanity, man. And that's what a misanthrope is, man. All right, it says misanthrope, a person who dislikes humankind and avoids human society. So that's what a misanthrope is, man. A person who dislikes humankind and avoids human society. And that's basically Israelites, man. All right. And that's why, a lot of the so-called Christians got put to death back then, because they hated the other race, man. They hated the so-called white race. All right. They hated the Edomites, man, which is their biblical nationality. All right. They hated the Elamites, the Ishmaelites. They hated the Assyrians. They hated the Moabites, the Ammonites. All right. They hated the Cushites, the Hamites. Okay. It says, in their very deaths, they were made the subjects of sport. Oh, they were made the subjects of sport. Let's see if I can get that in Wisdom of Solomon. I think that is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. It's like 16. Let's see what that say. Oh yeah, this is Wisdom of Solomon 2. And 19. Let us examine him with despitefulness and torture, that we may know his meekness and prove his patience. And that's what these fucking Romans did, man. They tortured us, man. All right, they tortured us. It says, in their very deaths, they were made the subjects of sport. Because, yeah, man, like the scripture says, man, it is a sport. Matter of fact, I'm going to get it right quick. Because all this wickedness that the so-called white man, basically performs is like a sport unto him, man. This is Proverbs 23 and 10. No. Salakia. Proverbs 10 and 23. It says, it is a sport to a fool to do mischief, man. So all that shit that the so-called white man was doing, this Emperor Nero, all this shit that he was doing, it was a sport to him and to do that mischief. It says, in their very deaths, they were made the subjects of sport. All right. It says they were covered with the hides of wild beasts and worried to death by dogs, or nailed to crosses, which lets you know that they're Israelites because they did the same thing to Yahweh Shah, who these people ignorantly called Jesus Christ. They did the same thing to his kinsmen. It says, or set fire to, like I was saying, in the time of slavery, they used to hang us, and also burn us to a fucking crisp, set us on fire. It says, and when the day waned, burned to serve for the evening lights. So they would basically set us on fire to basically light the community, so to speak, man. All right. It says Nero offered his own garden players for the spectacle. It says, and exhibited a circumcision game. Circumcision game. It says, indiscriminately mingling with the common people in the dress of a charioteer, or else standing in his chariot. For this cause a feeling of compassion arose towards the sufferers, though guilty and deserving an exemplary capital punishment, because they seemed not to be cut off for the public good, but were victims of the ferocity of one man. And that's how the so-called white man gonna do 2/3 of the nation of Israel, man. All right, that's how he gonna do their ass, man. All right, this is 2nd Esdras 16 and 70. 2nd Esdras 16 and 70. It says, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Most High. And ultimately, those that fear the Most High is Israelites, period, man. All right? Because even 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they have a zeal, but not according to knowledge. They do certain things, and they know in their spirit that is wrong, that they shouldn't be doing that. Like, for instance, you selling drugs, man. All right? You feel in your spirit like, this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. All right? It says they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Most High, which are Israelites, man. Because we're the ones that fear the Lord. For instance, anytime an Israelite gets in a scenario where he's about to be persecuted, or he's about to be arraigned at court, all right, or he going through a trial at court, all right, or he get arrested, or he get an illness, infirmity, all right, the first person that they call upon, not person, Salaki, but the first thing that comes to their mind is they pray to that higher power, so to speak, man. All right, and Esau, he's gonna be destroying these people like madmen, just like he did in the time of the Christian persecution, man, in 64 AD. All right, this is one more scripture, Revelations chapter 12, verse 12. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, because we as a people, the Israelites, we inhabit the earth and the sea, man. Mainly the earth, man. So the scripture says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. All right. It says, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. That's why Esau, he's going to come down on you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have a short time. Because why? He have a short time to establish this new world order, man. It's obvious that he has a short time, man. You would think that the World War III was gonna start before he would implement the chip, man. But that's not gonna happen. Just saying, like it would seem that way with all this turmoil and this tension that's going on surrounding these various different militaries. All right. So that's why Esau is gonna come down having great wrath, because he know he's gonna have a short time to establish this new world order, man. So with that, man, hope this video was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Shemi Al Shai Mashana Kabasha Laki Ayam. Shalom Kasa. Shalom Kasa. Shalom Wakasa Lahabakiyar. Alright. And peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom Akim.